welcome back to our Aunt Bee project. Our cushions are all set and we are ready to roll on to the outside of the frame. So today we are going to be upholstering the outside arm and the outside wing. Now there's a few different ways that we could do that, so we really weighed our options and we decided we're going to show you how to hand stitch this entire piece on, which is great for a few reasons. Number one, it's actually really considered a nice high-end premium technique where you get great results. Number two, you don't need much special equipment, so if you're working at home, all you're gonna need is some thread and a curved needle. And number three, it's a super versatile technique, so you're gonna find all kinds of places to use your new hand stitching skills. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing we have to do here is we have all this open space that comprises our frame, and we need to close that up so that we have a solid surface. And as you can see on the inside, we have synthetic burlap, which is the same thing we're going to do on the outside. Now you might see on your chair, a lot of times you pull off natural burlap, or you might even pull off something really creative, like a scrap remnant fabric, or we've pulled out tin, we've pulled out tile wall samples there. But if you don't have burlap, and you have a scrap of something sturdy on hand, a cotton duck or a chintz, something like that, you may be able to use something else. What's important is that this is sturdy and it's going to hold up our padding against that fabric here. And I don't even need to have this in one solid piece, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use up some of our scraps from bigger projects to fill this in. Let me start up here on the wing and I'm going to show you. I'm just going to fold this in nice and tidy and staple that down. Back here I can leave this long, or I can go ahead and fold that as well. I think I'm going to fold it. What I don't want to do is staple it and trim it off because it will want to ravel. I think I'm just going to go ahead and fold that flat. Fold this under here, and you'll see in our next step, when I hand sew, I'm going to want to cover all of this up. So I'm going to be careful not to go too far out to the edge because that's going to be really hard for me to cover up. I want to stay a little bit back so that my fabric can go past it. A lot of things that we do in upholstery, they make sense a step or two later. Okay, because now I'm going to do the arm, and that's going to go right on top of that same spot. And I want to show you down under here, one of the reasons why we're hand stitching is we don't have much room to work with. So to get a tack strip in there or ply grip would really be a challenge. So I'm just going to fold that and start there. Oh, don't get your finger. Don't upholster your tools in there. Good, now let's look at back here. This has to actually curve up to close up that space. So with my scissors, I'm just going to make enough clips to be able to do that. So I don't have to do anything particularly fancy here. I just need to get around that space. And you can feel here, right here, like nothing to staple to. So it's good that we're gonna sew the fabric on. Ready for padding, and we are going to use this is a 3/4 ounce batting, and we just split it down the middle for our outside layers because we don't want it to get too bulky. But if you wanted a little more, you could use that full and that would be fine. But here, let me show you. Now this layer, we do want to wrap that bottom edge of the frame. So we want just a little bit of padding on our corner. So I'm going to start there. Let's start right down. other edges where we're meeting finished fabric. Here, what we're gonna end up doing is turning this under and stapling it so that we have a nice clean edge that we can cover up. What we might need to do in some spots is trim it. Once the padding is finished, we are ready for fabric. With hand stitching, we want to get everything into position before beginning. The back and bottom edges will be basted into place with a few staples, and the edges where we're meeting fabric to fabric will pin into place. Now you can use any straight pin you like for this, but I especially enjoy these C.S. Osborne skewer pins from Fabric Supply in Minneapolis. They're a lot sturdier than pins you may be using for draperies or clothing, so they stand up really well to being stabbed into furniture. If you're a quilter or anything, it probably looks like we got this at Giantland, but we didn't. We got it at Fabric Supply, but it's quite a lot bigger than curved needles for other things, and that's okay. It's going to be much easier to hang on to, and it's still going to get a small enough stitch. Hand stitching thread, and that is, it's a nylon thread, and it's a little heavier than what you have in your machine. And it's also wax, so it doesn't slip, it doesn't tangle, it's a lot easier to work with. Let me show you. We have all kinds of colors here, and in real life I would be looking for the best match, which would probably be this one, but for you guys I want you to be able to see what we're doing, so we're going to go with something a little bolder. And guess what? The idea is that you're not supposed to see the stitches anyway, and I'm just going to run my thread around here, get an idea of how much it's going to take, and then give myself a little bit extra. Now I like, if I'm going to hand sew a nice long stretch like this, even though it doesn't have symmetry, I'm still going to try and start in the middle, just because if I start here, it may want to all kind of pull one direction as I work. Better for me to start towards the middle and head out from there. So I'm going to try and find the center of my thread and just give myself a couple overhand knots. All right, what I want to do is start right in that elbow, use my curved needle to get behind the fabric and try and come up in the fold that I've created. Can you see that? And that's where we're going to start. So when I pull this thread through here, my knot should just grab back in there and I'm all set. So I have enough thread to run down this way and finish off, and I have enough thread for the direction that I'm going. Okay, we're going to try and get in real nice and close here for you so you can catch the stitch that we're doing. It's called a ladder stitch, or just called blind stitching, but we have two pieces going on. We're going to call this our new piece, and this is our old piece. Right now my thread is coming out of my new piece of fabric. So my next stitch, I'm going to hop over to the old piece where I'm joining, and I'm going to grab just about a 1/2 inch, and I'm going in and out on the old piece of fabric. I'm not crossing over right now. So we got just a 1/2 stitch there. Now I'm in the old side, so I'm going to hop over and I'm going to grab about a 1/2 inch stitch in my new fabric. Let me do a couple more of those, and then I'm going to give you a few more tips and tricks. So 1/2 inch in the old fabric, and a 1/2 inch in the new fabric. Now sometimes I might give myself a chalk or a pencil line to have a clearer sense of where I'm stitching. You can certainly give yourself that guide. Otherwise, we're just going to follow right along the fold that we've pinned into place. And see, once you give it a tug, how nice that pulls together. Now I want to show you one of the common mishaps here when we hand stitch. And see, even though we have a contrast thread, you don't see even a peak of it once it's pulled in there. So a lot of times people come here and they go straight across. And let's see if I can even catch this. And you pull it together, and you might, oh, this is actually a really nice forgiving fabric, but you might end up seeing your stitch there. And if you do, that's okay. That's okay. What's nice is that it's really easy to rework your hand stitching. Try not to ravel your thread like that. We need to pull out that last stitch and try this again. And when I come across from the new piece to the old piece, I'm going to see where it lines up. And then I'm actually going to creep back, oh, about a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch, just a whisper. Which is probably not very technical for any woodworkers following this. Like anything under an 1/8 inch, we're just going to call it kind of a smidge, huh? Here we go across again. Let's hop back. But you will see, you'll see in your own results where you need to be. If it pulls together and you're seeing that stitch line, then you just play with it until you get that nice invisible seam. And some fabrics are going to hand stitch better than others, but for the most part, it's a pretty safe option. Now I'm going to keep working my way along. And as I get to each pin, I'm just going to pop that pin out and keep going. And this should be fairly smooth and snug, but remember, these staples out here, they're just placeholders. So we'll pop those out and then we'll give this all one last stretch at the end to make sure that everything's nice and smooth and tight. All right, so just like the other one, we are going to knot it off down on the bottom where it'll get covered up with the bottom cloth. So from there, we need to reposition our temporary staples. So we go ahead and pop these out and we will get to work. Cut down here, if we can find the corner where our leg meets our board, just like on the front, that's what we're aiming for. And it's just going to be one cut to that point, and we'll angle it so that I have fabric to fold here and I have fabric to fold here. It for our outside arm and wing. I hope you had fun and I hope you find lots of places to apply your new hand stitching skills. Next week we are going to tackle the outside back and the bottom, and what you're going to find is that you already know all the techniques that we're going to use. We're just going to show you how to apply them to a new situation. So hope you can join us then. Have a great week.